A little bit late to the stream again. I found one of those goddamn crickets in my room. Finally, the thing that's been tormenting me all summer long is fucking gone. Because I deleted it. I hate crickets so much. I hate them. I just fucking viscerally hate them, and they're gonna be back in the summer. I know it. I fucking know it. I can't stand this repetitive high-pitched noise that goes off and on like some kind of freaking, a constant high-pitched rhythm like that. It's just so freaking annoying. I don't know what it is about that one. There's just certain noises that just immediately, I'm just pissed. I'm just so angry. The instant I hear it, I can't control it. It's just like, if you want me to get mad, that's one of the quickest ways to do it. Oh, hey, hi. I was just starting a rant before I started officially streaming and stuff, basically. But I don't know if you've seen, but sometimes I had like crickets on my stream, literal insect crickets. And it's like, and I hate that noise so much. I hate the sound of crickets so much. They make me so mad. But also, let me think. Oh yeah, and I applied for another job, and hopefully I get that one. So, yeah. Just some quick life updates before I go back to reading Umineko no Naku Koro ni. Lieutenant Yamamoto, the Italians don't want us to tell the mainland about this gold. So they don't want our country to snatch it away from them. What did he say? He's saying your group probably doesn't want it reported because you fear that Japan will steal it away from you. Lieutenant Angelo is actually more afraid of Italy itself finding out. To us, our homeland's current government is a mere puppet set up by the Allied forces. If they find out the gold will be returned to them, however, that would be the same as handing the gold over to our enemies. Oh, okay. They're the World War II part of this story, because they come all this way to make sure that the gold didn't fall into enemy hands. They needed to hide it from that puppet government until their homeland could be truly restored. Unfortunately, this is the Axis powers, so don't hope anything good for them. Shiromiya, make a proposal to the Italians. Tell them that we wish to offer our assistance. What sort of assistance? Let's see, if I got this straight, they want that gold secret so their homeland doesn't find out about it. But they'll need to find at least a transport ship if they plan to carry it off this island. If they want to try that, though, the mainland will hear about it, which means the Italian government will too. That's right. In other words, there's no longer any way to take that gold off of Rokkenjima. Their mission must have been to hide the gold in absolute secrecy until the day of their homeland's restoration. Later on, several plausible rumors were circulated about how Nazi Germany had also moved much of its secret wealth to a certain hidden areas in the South America just to its prior collapse. It was a very natural conclusion to reach. That submarine was their only method of transporting gold in secrecy. It's become completely useless. They can't fully stop the water from seeping in, and it'll probably sink completely before much longer. There's no longer any way for them to transport the gold in secrecy. In other words, their mission has ended in failure here in the Far East. So just how is Lieutenant Yamamoto proposing that we assist them? The Rokkenjima base is top secret and no one knows about it. The islanders of the surrounding area think this island's an ill omen and deserted, so they'll never come near it. Catch my drift, Shiromiya? What did he say? As we told you earlier, no one knows about this base, and as you can see, it's of no use strategically, so the higher-ups have already forgotten about it. It sounds like Lieutenant Yamamoto is suggesting you hide the gold on this island. Beatrice quickly translated this and told Lieutenant Angelo. He began discussing something rapidly with his subordinates. They didn't look happy. Japan may have been their ally, but they didn't want to leave the gold for reconstructing their motherland in Asian hands. Still, it was hard to imagine any other option for them. It's a fierce debate. Some say that there is no other option, while others think we should remain loyal to our homeland no matter the cost. Lieutenant Angelo is stuck between a rock and a hard place. The final order given to them by their fallen homeland was to hide the gold. However, by now there was no way for that order to be carried out successfully. If the mainland or their own homeland found out, the gold would probably be confiscated by the wrong people from their point of view. If they really wanted to carry out their homeland's orders faithfully, Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal was extremely reasonable. Though he couldn't understand their words, he seemed to realize how divided they were. If we help out, we'll be able to hide the gold in total secrecy. Fortunately, there's a abandoned tunnel that stretches all the way across this island. He's saying that if you hide the gold underground and bury it on this island, no one will be able to find it. Our side is saying it sounds like a realistic proposal. However, there seems to be some resistance to accepting Japanese help. It seems they're having a difficulty coming to a decision. You really have a choice, Italians? You don't think you can hide that gold without our help, do you? And I doubt you want to leave it lying around here on the beach for much longer. Lieutenant Angelo wants to minimize the number of people who know about the gold. He doesn't trust the Japanese, but it looks like he's decided that Lieutenant Yamamoto's plan is the best possible option. But he seems suspicious. About what? He's wondering whether they really intend to move up 10 tons of gold and swear themselves to secrecy without any sort of compensation. 50%. Sir, you can't be. Hand over half the gold to us. With that as our work wages, we'll hide the other half nice and safe for them. He's telling you to give us half of it. The instant Beatrice translated that sentence, Lieutenant Angelo slammed his hands on the desk and stood up. Instead of flinching, Lieutenant Yamamoto, true of his boast of once being a thug who everyone feared, actually looked even more relaxed and confident than he had been previously. After all, they really don't have the option of refusing. We could demand 80% if we wanted. I lowered that to 50% as a sign of good faith. Of course, we aren't the only ones with leverage here. If the Italians decide to leak this to the outside, all the gold will probably be taken by Japan or Italy. We won't let them get a single yen out of it. This can only work if we're both partners in crime here. He's saying that we should all be partners in a crime of embezzlement. By now, he's already moved on to speaking as an individual, not a soldier. I don't believe it! So the gold has blinded him! Lieutenant Yamamoto was grinning. It really did look like he's been blinded by greed, just as Beatrice said. If they leave it just piled up where it is, you can be sure that'll be noticed when the boat comes for them from the mainland. If that happens, none of us will profit. They ought to accept our proposal and hide the gold as soon as possible. It sounds like Lieutenant Angelo is dead set on the Japanese and Italian governments not finding out about this. He wants to carry out his duty until the end. So, what exactly does that mean? He wants the gold buried deep within the island, even if he has to pay some percentage to buy your silence. Of course, some of his subordinates object strongly. They're saying that 50% is out of the question. Ushiro Miya, how are they doing? They also don't want any more people laying hands on the eyes on the gold. However, they seem to object to all the portions. Lieutenant Angelo says they'll consider 10%, though he's also saying he's fairly sure Lieutenant Yamamoto won't accept that. Ushiro Miya, what's the Italians' answer? They say they'll consider 10%. This time, it was Lieutenant Yamamoto who slammed down the desk. But the Italians didn't flinch either, and incredible tension filled the small room. However, despite his violent outburst a second ago, Lieutenant Yamamoto's expression still looked smug and in control. He probably is confident that he now had the initiative. 10%! Now there's a modest proposal. Okay, sure, I'll give up 10%. We'll split it 40-60. Definitely I won't get any lower than that. 40 for the Japanese, 60 for the Italians. The lieutenant was talking tough, but in truth, these negotiations weren't being made on equal footing. If the Italians had just wanted the gold for themselves, there wouldn't be much of a problem. But what if they were the true patriots and decided to return the gold for the purpose of reconstruction, even to the defeated puppet government of their homeland? If so, they would probably report the existence of the gold to the Italian embassy. Eventually, the Italian government would petition the Allied nations for the retrieval of their gold. It probably wouldn't make it back to Italy, but it might be used effectively to repair and rebuild their battered towns. If that happened, Lieutenant Yamamoto and his friends would only be able to sneak out a few ingots at most. He was greedily planning to make his own treasure island so that he and his subordinates would have an enormous fortune all to themselves. If he wanted to succeed, the Italians would have to keep the presence of the gold quiet. But there's one thing I don't get. If Lieutenant Angelo doesn't want anyone to have the gold, he could just have the submarine sink. Why did he have it unloaded? I'd rather not think about it, but Lieutenant Angelo might have started planning to embezzle that gold as soon as he realized their mission would be impossible to complete. Right now he's asking his subordinates for their opinions. Both the soldiers and individuals have families waiting for them back home. The more straight-laced soldiers are furious. The discussion between the Italians was becoming fierce and emotional. Though their homeland had fallen, they had come all this way in accordance with his orders. They had probably been given this mission because they were particularly faithful and duty-minded troops. It seems they wouldn't just agree to a foreigner's proposal to embezzle and split up the gold. Lieutenant Angelo looked as if he was doing all he could to calm the unexpectedly fervent rage of his subordinates. Looks like the gold is blinding them too. Everyone's mixing their true feelings with how they want to be seen, and they can't make up their minds. How's her answer coming? Ushiramiya! Biche, Lieutenant Yamamoto was asking for an answer. They're saying they want some time to think. I had to talk so I was able to distract myself from their current situation, but that wasn't true for the rest of them. They lost a lot of comrades at the end of a very long journey, and now they're here and in a tight spot. They've even lost their mission, the one thing they could depend on to guide them. They don't know what to do. Sir, they say they'd like some time. Sure. Let them talk it all over they want, but they better not take too long. If they're gonna hide the gold, that'll take time and effort. Make your decision before noon tomorrow. That's all, Italians. He's giving you until noon tomorrow. That bastard, he's practically threatening you. Lieutenant Angelo says he'll ask for everyone's thoughts on the matter. Which way do you think they'll go? It'll probably be tough going. It seems Lieutenant Angelo is willing to consider splitting it, but his subordinates and the others will probably oppose that. All of them have lost close friends on their voyage to the Far East. They're firm in their desire to do their duty for their homeland. Will they refuse Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal? Even if they do, the gold would just fall into someone else's hands. If nothing is going to be left anyway, Lieutenant Angelo suggests that they each sneak at least one ingot back with them, and some of them seem to agree, but men always get carried away at times like this. Even I can't guess what they'll do. I imagine the Italians had some complicated feelings about all this. In their eyes, the Italy that surrendered was probably a little better than the enemy country. Letting the gold go back there would make their entire voyage meaningless. However, embezzling and divvying up the gold would also make their whole voyage meaningless. The country they felt obligated to serve had already fallen. That alone destroyed the significance of their journey. Not a happy story for them. If it's bound to be meaningless anyway, wouldn't keeping hold of even just a few ingots be better than nothing? Sure, if you want to calculate straight up profit and loss, but men aren't like that. The Italians were gathered in a cramped room and arguing fiercely. I don't like it, we must retreat. I don't like it, we must retreat. What the fuck? I don't like it, we must remain true to our soldier spirit until the end, for the sake of our fallen comrades. And how do you define remaining true? By hiding the gold on this island? By accepting the proposal of those Asians? Whoa, racism! We can't trust them, especially that Yamamoto person. We mustn't let our guards down. Unloading the gold and letting the Japanese see it was a huge mistake. We should have let it sink with the sub. Oh, wonderful idea, let's just sink it aside a Japanese base. It would have been pulled up eventually. That wouldn't hide anything. Doesn't matter, there's no way to get the gold off this island without anyone knowing. If we had just taken the honorable path and scuttled the sub, none of this would have happened. If we had known that sub would have been broken beyond repair, why did Lieutenant Commander contact the Japanese military and ask for help? How was he planning to carry out our mission if they found out about the gold? Our mission was to fail from the moment he asked for help. All of us have families waiting for us back home, and we've more than done our part. I'd say voyaging all the way to this island country in the Far East, you might call this a fair and just payment for our services. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Damn it. Lieutenant Angelo, if the Japanese prove to be less than amicable, we need to prepare to take extreme measures. And what do you mean by extreme measures, Corporal? Someone gulped. A stiff tension hung over the room. The Japanese here are pushovers. They're all cowards with no battle experience. And we're the elite. We know the layout of almost the entire base along with the number of Japanese troops and how they're arranged. If Lieutenant Angelo gives the orders, we should be able to subdue them quickly. Only a few of them, Yamamoto included, look like fighters. The rest are just laborers attached to the military. It may look like they have the advantage of numbers, but we have the greater military force. If we kill them, exactly what are we going to say when the boat comes to pick us up? You really think that'll work? There should be plenty of ways to work as long as the corpses aren't found. Lieutenant Angelo, it'll be easy to subdue this base if we kill Yamamoto and a few strong fighters. The laborers will probably surrender easily. Sorry, I'm not burying the voices. I don't really care about this segment. Let's have them carry the gold and bury it. Of course, we'll have to silence them afterwards. Are you suggesting that we massacre all of them? Let's do it. If we kill them all, no one will know about the gold. At that moment, the supposedly locked door opened slightly, and a metal object was thrown in. Granada! As a yell rang out, the table was kicked over to be used as a shield, and they all dropped to the floor. However, in this cramped room, it probably wouldn't do them any good. The Italians were all prepared for death. A dud! It's a dud! Fortunately, the shy grenade was a dud. The door was slammed open. The 3 Japanese soldiers wielding pistols jumped in. Damn it, it's a dud! Kill the Italians! Kill the Italians! Return fire! Fire at will! In this small room, no matter who shot where, it was bound to hit someone. The exchange of bullets instantly caused a rain of blood, with casualties on both sides. The 3 who had jumped in were covered with bullet holes and fell over moaning and thrashing. Gino! Gino! Damn it, they got us long, we can't save him! We should consider ourselves lucky. If that grenade had gone off, we'd all be dead. The grenade was still rolling about on the floor. It had been a surprise attack. Lieutenant Yamamoto had probably judged the negotiations wouldn't go his way and decided to make the first move. Or maybe he had been planning from the beginning to put them in a position where they gathered in one place to discuss his offer. Rokkenjima was their island. If they killed all the Italians, then not half, but all the gold would go to the Japanese. There was a chance the grenade might go off late. The Italians rushed out into the corridor. They had heard gunfire down from the hallway. It was coming from the direction of the submarine dock. Clearly the troops guarding the pile of gold were being attacked. Lieutenant Angelo, where are your orders? We have no choice. Kill them. Lieutenant, these guys are good. Those Italians aren't your ordinary sailors. I see, they needed men good enough to guard that gold after all. We have numbers. Keep your cool surrounding them and kill them. Let's hunt some of them. What the hell? Okay. Well, have fun with that, losers. Both of them are losers, but whatever. As soon as I heard the sound of repeated gunfire, I knew that something which had been smoldering since the time the gold was unloaded had finally burst. The eyes of our soldiers looking at that gold hadn't been normal. Yes, those eyes had been entranced by demons. The Italians had been pushed to the limits by the heavy burden they bore. Who wouldn't have snapped at being trapped in a distant island where you can't understand the language or the writing? Thinking I had to do something, I ran toward the sound of gunfire. Looking back on it, that was an extremely stupid thing to do. That sound meant that there were people shooting at each other, people killing each other, and yet unarmed as I was, I dashed toward the sound as though I was trying to mediate some schoolyard fight. It didn't take long before I learned how foolish and naive that was in the heat of battle. Hiraoka! Warrant Officer Hiraoka was lying face down. His entire body was drenched in blood. Judging by the trail of blood behind him, it was clear that he had somehow managed to crawl here from a different room before dying. No, he was still twitching. He might not be dead yet, but on the island without a doctor. No, even if we had a doctor. Who could possibly save a man who had been shot this many times in the chest? When I looked into the room he must have crawled out of, I saw 2 more blood-stained Japanese corpses. No! Shh! Go away, email. They're dead! I don't care if I'm not acting that right. I fell backwards pathetically on my butt, my mouth hanging open in shock. Come to think of it, that was the first time I'd ever faced death in my life. The entire world was at war. Even though millions were dying both east and west, this is the first time I met with a person's death directly. Ridiculous! Didn't I join the army hoping to die? Didn't I whine about not being sent to the front lines? Yeah, so rejoice, KINZO. Isn't this the death you were looking for? Why not spread your hands and yell out loud? Come for me, magnificent death! Someone came running toward me. It was a colleague of mine, a Japanese man, Tajima. He dashed toward me, face pale, out of breath. His face seemed horribly contorted with terror. Mine probably looked the same. Tajima! What happened? Run away! We'll all be killed! Someone yelled in Italian, and at the same time Tajima let out a scream. Then he grabbed onto me as he fell on the floor. A red stain was spreading across his back before my eyes. Tajima! Run! As he spat bubbles of blood, he said one word and died. But the shock of seeing someone die right in front of me did not freeze my heart. At a fundamental level, all living things are unconcerned with the death of others. The one thing that matters is whether they themselves die or not. It was the barrel of the gun the Italian soldier was pointing that froze my heart. Tajima's back burst once more as he leaned against me. Flesh tore and blood spattered. The warm splash of it covered my face. Was the Italian still trying to finish him off even though he had stopped moving for good? How foolish I've been. Can I still not understand the scene in front of me? Rejoice, KINZO! Now you'll finally get what you wanted all this time! The Italian had fired to finish off Tajima. He had been aiming at the man Tajima had fallen on, me, Ushiromiya KINZO. I pushed his corpse aside and scrambled against the floor and dashed away, tumbling over myself. My hands had pushed off against the floor, hard enough to tear off the ring fingernail of my left hand. And when faced with death, humans truly can resist with all they've got. I tumbled over and over as I ran, scraping up parts of my body. It was painful, hot, but that didn't matter at all. I heard the yelling in Italian coming from behind me over and over again. It felt like they were running and chasing after me. I didn't want to look back, so I kept on running and running as though the Italians were right behind me. This is death! Didn't you want to die? No, I don't want to die! Why? Didn't I want to die so badly, but now I know. I know how wonderful it is to be alive. She taught me. Biche did. I can only be free when I talk with her. No! By talking with her, I finally became alive for the first time. I was born. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live! I don't want to die! I want to live and see her right now. If I don't see her, I'll die. I'll be killed. Stay cool, KINZO. She might be killed too. If you live and she dies, you might as well be dead. Before I knew it, my face was covered in tears, snot, and saliva. When I stumbled onto something and fell, I was finally able to come to my senses a little. I could still hear intermediate fire. The gunfight was still going on, and it had spread throughout the entire base. Biche, are you okay? I'll find her and take her to a safe place. The lieutenant will probably kill all the Italians to steal the gold. Biche probably won't be an exception. Biche! Biche! I live for the first time after meeting you. I was born. So if you die, I'll die again. I could feel every cell in my body being reborn, not as Ushiromiya KINZO, but as a completely different KINZO. Of course, I was terrified that I might really be shot if I went back. But I didn't want to die anymore. To truly die. So I was able to overcome my fear. Biche! I don't really care about KINZO, I'm sorry. Rubens! What on earth is going on? What is all this? There's no need for you to know. Just stay hidden there. Don't come out until one of your fellow countrymen calls for you. I heard an Italian voice. He's over there. Racism. Ruben stood with Beatrice behind his back and nearly shot the two men rushing at him with two 9mm bullets from his Beretta M1934. Whatever, I don't know how to read a bunch of that smoothly. However, one of the 8mm bullets from their Type 94 semi-auto pistols went straight into Ruben's chest. All three of the soldiers were struck in the chest and fell down in a heap. No! Rubens! Go up the surface. You have to hide in the forest. Rubens! My, are we chatty? The next person to appear was the commanding officer of the Japanese soldiers, Yamamoto. The blast of 3 guns had just sounded. Adding on Beatrice's screams, it was hardly surprising he had noticed the encounter. It had come to this way. We should have taken out this woman as a hostage in the first place. Damn annoying, that's what they are. Yamamoto spat. Beatrice used that moment to snatch up Ruben's gun. Well, look at you, reaching up to pick out a gun without missing a beat. Italian women sure are scary. Damn it, both of you were screwed up. He spat his last part of the 2 dying men who lay moaning at his feet. However, what happened to them wasn't particularly surprising. It wasn't the first time it had happened either. In this tiny, cramped tunnel, nearly everyone had met head-on. When both sides shot recklessly in such a situation, the result was 2 corpses. Whoever sensed the other pulled the trigger quickest won. That was the only way to survive this battle without a bullet in your chest. Because of this, both Japanese and Italians had to kill each other without hesitation. They sometimes even pulled the trigger on oncoming allies. In the midst of all this were several Japanese men who had stumbled into the fight wondering what was going on. It didn't matter whether the other person was holding a gun or not. Everyone had reflexively pulled the trigger at the sight of anyone other than themselves trying to stay alive. The entire base had wrapped up in this slaughter. There was a fierce gun battle taking place on the submarine dock, and a massacre resembling a hunt was taking place inside the base. It's okay, none of them are sympathetic, I think. So don't worry about it. Most of the non-combatants assigned to this base were killed before they knew what was going on. The Italians were indeed quite seasoned troops, but their numbers began to drop by a bit. Blood-stained corpses were scattered everywhere. At first, it had been a proper gunfight. However, as their minds began to grow weary and numb, it devolved into what most basic wars throughout humanity, the desire to kill all foreigners you don't understand. Whenever they heard words they didn't understand, they pulled the trigger. By that point, the screams of foreigners sounded no different from those from man-shaped beasts. After all, they couldn't understand pleading in another language. It had so long ago turned into a mere massacre. As the number of dead surpassed the number of living, silence began to return to the base. Just when it felt as though everyone had died, you could hear the desolate sound of wind blowing through the cave. There would be a sudden scream, the crisp sound of the gun. You remember that the massacre wasn't yet over. This happened over and over again, and eventually true silence fell. It marked the pitiful end for those led astray by gold. The leader of the Italian soldiers, Angelo, had managed to survive somehow. He encountered nothing but the corpses of friend and foe. All was quiet once more in the base. If he was careless enough to call out, he might be shot from the shadows somewhere. So he snuck out like a panther, breathing quietly and searching for remaining enemies. There was no sign or trace of any living person. Maybe all the people in this base had died. Nope. The Japanese struck first, but at the same time, we were also talking about killing them. They simply made the first move as military men, so perhaps we should be grateful for this day. Even if the boat had come to pick us up, there would have been no honor left for us. We would have been mere failures in our mission, unfit to face our dead comrades. Perhaps dying here in the Far East alongside my gun is a more fitting end for a soldier. I noticed the sound of shuffling feet coming from around the corner and strained to hear. Is someone seriously wounded and dragging their feet? Noticing them before they notice me greatly helps my chances. At their stage, there's no point taking prisoners. I'll dash around the corner quickly and check to see who they are, and shoot if it's a Japanese person. Nothing more. I've been hiding my footsteps the whole time. They probably don't know I'm here. Once the shuffling footsteps came close enough, Angelo leaned around the corner and raised his gun. The voice that reached him spoke Italian. Run! You! I've been looking for you, Lieutenant Angelo. That makes all of you. I've been counting Italian corpses, you see. Lieutenant Angelo, are you okay? Blood poured from Angelo's chest. His gun fell to the floor. Then his knees. And then the rest of his body crumpled and stopped moving. Yamamoto's accuracy with the gun wasn't particularly stellar. However, Angelo had waited until they were fairly close before jumping out. So Yamamoto made the shot. He managed to hit, with even the short-barreled handgun in one hand, and the woman as a hostage in the other. Really, though, our Rokenjima garrison was pathetic. Am I the only one who's not dead? Trash, all of them! Can't you fight without using a woman as a shield, you brute? Let go! Quiet! Noisy, these Italian girls. You just be cooperative, at least spare your life. It was such an obvious lie that he wore a bitter smile. The Italians were spies working for the enemy, and they all died working in the garrison in a gunfight. Since this is a story Yamamoto wanted to tell, he couldn't afford to have any Italian survivors. By this point, he wouldn't be able to keep the entire pile of gold. He should be able to grab as many as he could carry. Even that would be worth a huge amount of money. Beatrice suddenly swung her head, smashing Yamamoto's nose hard. Someone help! Someone! You bitch! Ugh. She almost managed to escape. However, Yamamoto quickly grabbed her leg and tripped her. She fell onto her back, and Yamamoto mercilessly stomped his foot down on her stomach and pointed his gun at her. I don't make a hobby of taming tomboys. Die! Lieutenant Yamamoto, she had nothing to do with this. Let go of her! KINZO had jumped out from the shadows. He was holding a gun he had stolen from one of the corpses. Shiromiya. Ah, so you're alive. Let go! You're hurting her! It was you, wasn't it? Oh, I'm sorry, there's a car. It was you, wasn't it? You tipped the Italians off. What are you talking about? Yamamoto didn't know the grenade had been a dud. He'd been sure that the surprise attack would work, but it hadn't. He assumed that KINZO must have tipped them off. It's your fault the surprise attack failed, and we're stuck like this. You turncoat. You traitor to your country. I know you've been working with them through this woman. Can't you see that you caused all this because you were blinded by gold? Run, KINZO! This man shot people begging for their lives. He'll shoot you too! Don't talk Italian. If you open your mouth again, I won't hesitate to shoot. It hurts. Yamamoto ground his heel into Beatrice's gut. Stop it! Stop it! She has nothing to do with this! Uh-huh. Are you pointing a gun at a superior officer? Stop and think a bit, fool. If we agree to keep to the same story, we can have that pile of gold all to ourselves, okay? I can only grab a few on my own, but if we work together, we'll be able to sneak off with even more. I don't mean this as your superior officer. Let's split it equally between us as men. The last time you offered to split the gold 50-50, you tried to slit their throats. Shiromiya, looks like you prefer lead to gold. Without any hesitation, Yamamoto raised the barrel of his gun toward KINZO and pulled the trigger. It grazed KINZO's right ear. If Yamamoto's aim had been just a bit better, the bullet would have slammed at KINZO's face. KINZO! How could you? Not letting Yamamoto's momentary distraction go to waste, Beatrice lashed out, planted her right foot in Yamamoto's crotch. After moaning in pain, a demonic expression flashed across Yamamoto's face. He stomped on her chest. Biche! You bitch! Die! I'm not wasting my voice on him. Beatrice shut her eyes tightly, hoping that she would withstand the withcoming pain. No one wants to watch the moment they get shot. You. Oops. Just as you took so many lives for your personal reasons, I'll take your life for mine. Could Yamamoto hear KINZO's words until the end? In his last moments, he seemed to grin. Then slowly, he fell backwards with a spurt of blood. I don't know how much I can trust KINZO's words, by the way. As always, there's unreliable narrators in Umineko, so can't exactly always trust KINZO, so yeah. KINZO, are you okay? I was sure you'd been shot. Beatrice tried to stand up, but then doubled over and started coughing. Biche, are you hurt? My ribs are hurting. That brute really was stomping them hard. Will you be okay? I hope they aren't broken. Italian women don't break so easily, but thanks. I owe you my life. If you hadn't come, it would have all ended there. Yamamoto has shown no mercy. Her ribs were probably cracked. We didn't have the option of waiting, possibly for several days, for the ship that was coming. I made a decision to carry her away from the island. The man who kept yelling about preserving the secrecy of the base is lying there dead. The next is the island over there. Nijima is close. A small boat should be more than enough to get us there. I need to take you to a hospital. The wound might be more serious than you realize. That's interesting. I never knew there was a hospital on this island. There isn't. A boat should get us to the next island over. We'll get you to the hospital. As for me, unless I cleverly cover up what happened on this island, I might end up getting court-martialed just for being here. I have a request. Please don't take me to a hospital. Why? If we go to the hospital and the embassy is contacted, I'll eventually be sent back to Italy. If that happens, I'll be interrogated about all kinds of things. I won't be acknowledged, the bastards who let Mama die. There's no homeland for me to return to now. This is the end for me. So there's nowhere I want to go anymore. Lieutenant Angelo, Rubens, everyone who was so kind to me, they're all dead. And because of that, you want to die here too? I thought you said Italian women weren't weak. Live. Hey, KINZO, what does it mean to live? You're the one who taught me, aren't you? Living is more than just breathing. I don't want to go back to Italy. Biche, you said you were dead until you met me, but it's the same for me. I died in that submarine. My homeland fell and Mama died. Even Papa died. I prayed that our sub would just sink to the bottom of the ocean. So when we reached this place, I was actually disappointed we survived. Then, right after that, Lieutenant Angelo started asking whether anyone could speak English. When KINZO met Beatrice, he finally forgot about dying. And when Beatrice met KINZO, she also forgot about dying. Now that I've lost my homeland, my family, and my friends, my only wish is for you to kidnap me and take me away with you. By the way, even though this seems romantic, there is a huge age gap between the two. Okay? He's like an older man. I think probably like he's in his 40s or something. She's in her 20s. So he's like half her age. Or she's like half his age or something. So even if it seems romantic, try not to see it that way. Biche. But I know that's a wish that couldn't possibly come true. So at the very least, I want to be with you until the boat comes for us. I don't care about the pain in my chest. After all, when the boat comes and takes me away, I'll die. Beatrice spoke this, smiling softly. She did her best to hide the pain in her chest. Please, KINZO, just for a few days until the boat comes, kidnap me. That's a wish I can't grant. Looking apologetic, KINZO lifted Beato up and gently sat her in the boat. Coward. So Japanese men are weak after all. You're right. I am a coward, so I can only grant half of your wish. With a clock he placed it, wrapped it in a jacket, in the boat. What do you mean? The part about until the boat comes for you. That's the part I can't grant. Huh? What do you mean? Kidnapping you. That part I will do. KINZO. There has to be a doctor on Nijima. I'm wearing a Navy uniform. I should be able to pass myself off as a survivor of a boat carrying a VIP that was sunk by enemy ships. If the doctor happens to be the greedy sort, all the better. After all, I have the right here, the golden magic, to make people do what I say. Huh, golden magic. Make sure to remember that. It's a hint. A witch from the distant country took my lifeless body and gave me a soul. Hold on, I'll try to make it better. A witch from a distant country took my lifeless body and gave me a soul. A woman came to me with the gold and revived me with her magic. You are a witch. The Golden Witch. Yes, the Golden Witch. Even though I use the same recipe as everyone else, only my alchemy can turn pasta into smoking black heat. Just like you, I'm nothing but a corpse allowed to live just as long as you're with me. If you go, I'll die straight away. I won't let you die here. Really? No matter what. Take responsibility, okay? After all, you're the one kidnapping me. I see. So KINZO told you that much. Then, what? Was it you? You're the Nijima doctor who grandfather took Beatrice to see. Why so shocked? It should have leapt to the mind ever since the words Nijima doctor. All of a sudden, a soldier from the Navy appeared along with a foreign woman. Of course I was astounded. And then he actually told me to treat her wounds confidently since their presence was a military secret. Was that the first time you met grandfather? Yes, that was when we first met. So you're the greedy doctor who followed the orders for the sake of gold. That's a bit harsh. He suddenly brought in a foreign woman patient and explained to me this was a military secret, promised that he'd pay the medical fees later, and handed me a gold ingot as collateral. I didn't want to get involved with any funny business. I was reluctant to say the least. I see your point, but in the end you did conceal Beatrice, didn't you? I may not be as skilled as KINZO, but I do have some familiarity with English. I managed to overhear a part of their conversation, and that was enough to convince me they were not troublesome people. Of course, if I were to say the ingot didn't tempt me, that would be a lie. I was much younger then, you see. What happened to her next? I treated her for some time before a messenger from the Ushiromiya family came and said that she would be moved to Odawara. They took her away. So grandfather didn't come to get her himself. Regardless of how KINZO explained away the incident on Rokkenjima, he probably wouldn't be able to move about freely for some time afterward. Precisely. KINZO has said that deceiving the military was the greatest challenge of his life. So Beatrice went to Odawara, and then what? I have heard that she hid in one of their unused villas. After all, KINZO already had a family at the time. Must have been tricky to manage. So leading a double life was a business as usual for KINZO, even before Kuadorian. Whoosh. What are you doing? Is your butt itching? And later on, Beatrice and grandfather continued their happy relationship in the villa from then on. I have heard that it was a modest, peaceful life. Several years later, they had a child. So Kuadorian's Beatrice was born. The birth didn't go well. It was a truly sad tale. You don't mean she died? Don't be surprised. KINZO believed his daughter was Beatrice reborn. You can't neglect the heart. It's possible to reason it out. You're right. My apologies. I don't know how many years KINZO spent with her in Odawara. However, judging by KINZO, we grew to know afterward, one can deeply tell he loved her, even if they only had a few years together. I see. and then he made Kuadorian for his daughter. KINZO cleverly made use of the submarine's gold to build up a fortune in a flash. Then he made use of his considerable skills in English to make connections with the GHQ, becoming immensely wealthy in a short amount of time. There's no need to explain this part to you, Leon. Yes, he used that vast wealth, brought Rokenjima and built the mansion. The remaining relatives in Odawara scoffed at grandfather, thinking he was crazy to buy an entire deserted island. If you could carry 10 tons of gold around in your pocket, KINZO probably wouldn't have bought Rokenjima. He hid the gold somewhere in Rokenjima, built up a fortune with the ingots he'd taken out of it, and then brought up the whole treasure island. Exactly. And that started the legend of the Ushinomiya gold. What about the mark of the one-winged eagle that was supposedly pressed onto the ingots? The one-winged eagle, or more precisely, an eagle of which only one wing is visible. What do you mean? You see it often in Europe, do you not? A crest or coat of arms with an eagle spreading its wings on it. The flag of the Salo Republic also had an eagle, or was it a hawk? At any rate, it had some bird of a type emblazoned on it. So the imprint was made too lightly, or at least it was poorly done. Correct. They used a rough wartime press. It was probably supposed to look like a crest of the eagle spreading its wings. It was pressed in a slight slant, so half of it was too light to see. So half the eagle spreading its wings disappeared, making it look like a one-winged eagle. KINZO thought the seal of the gold of Beatrice, the woman who had changed his fate, looked like a one-winged eagle. That must be why he decided to make that his own crest. Loser! If the imprint had been made correctly, it probably would have been the eagle of the Salo Republic's flag. Or else it could have been the two-headed... No, of course not. Passing the night away with KINZO in front of that massive pile of gold, drinking and wondering why, was truly an enjoyable experience. However, KINZO didn't want people to use that seal to figure out where the gold had come from. The gold he took outside was all repressed with the one-winged eagle design he had created. And all he did was show you the gold. What a cheapskate. Of course, after he became immensely rich, KINZO came to me once more saying he'd pay me in full for the overdue medical expenses. The amount he came with was a bit too much for medical fees, though I did make sure to give him his change. And you've been friends ever since? Yes, KINZO was extremely grateful to me for keeping his secret and concealing Beatrice. Grandfather was always saying that old relatives in Odawara were a bunch of greedy liars. I'm sure he appreciated your strong sense of duty, Dr. Nanjo. I think I understand why a person like Grandfather came to trust you. I also had some interest in foreign countries as well as a hobby of playing chess. KINZO and I have gotten along well ever since. It was a friendship that was built up gradually but grew strong before we knew it. Yes, we have been friends for a very long time. People who deal with large amounts of money tend to be quite mindful of small amounts as well. When you refuse to accept anything more than the medical fees, must have earned you his admiration. Ridiculous! I was just frightened by the large quantity of the money. I began to regret it later. Seems I never had real guts. No need to worry there. Guts are one thing that you've got no shortage of. You think so? Well, I appreciate the flattery. That wasn't flattery. He's talking about, boo, you're being mean. For at least one whole year after KINZO's death, Nanjo had taken part in hiding the secret of that death. Of course, Natsu must have given him some hush money. Still, there's no doubt he had enough guts to withstand pressure from KINZO's children for a long time without slipping up once. Okay, I'm just kidding, I'm the mean one. Now that's something that takes real guts. That sense of duty must be a part of your personality. Perhaps that's my only redeeming quality. I think Grandfather was blessed with a good friend. I wouldn't say that KINZO has good friends. I say that KINZO has good enablers. Tee-hee. Fuck KINZO. I fucking hate that guy. He is not as innocent as he claims. He doesn't deserve my respect or kindness. The only part is with the elders controlling his life. But what he does after that, no. Screw that. La 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 la. Anything else? No. Okay. I'm reading this tomorrow. Bye!